Okay, so hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Chill Talks podcast, where conversations happen. So I am your host, PJ, and as you can see, kind of new setup. And to be honest, it's been a while since I recorded a solo episode. So mostly interviews ang ginagawa ko. But this time, I've been holding back this topic kasi I'm really not sure how to present it properly na kung saan it will accommodate most of our listeners, mapabata man, millennials, Gen Zs, and even adults. Kasi this is a bit of, di naman sensitive, but this is a more common na pinagdadaanan ng lahat. So as you can see from the title, it's how to find yourself. Paano nga ba natin hahanapin ang sarili natin na it's been in the journey of everyone since the very beginning na until now, uso na yung sinasabi natin na hanapin ko muna yung sarili ko or I have to find myself or it's not for me, nawawala pa ako sa buhay. So we have so many interpretations on how do we find ourselves. So what I'm sharing with you is some of my personal experiences as well as how did I found myself. Because honestly, I can say to myself na nahanap ko na yung sarili ko, but it's not easy. Maybe it's easy for some, but it's really not easy from what I did. Kasi I realized something that most of us have difficulty finding ourselves mainly for two reasons na kung saan we either have difficulty finding a version of ourselves where we are happy or maybe we are finding a version of ourselves na kung saan kontento sa buhay. So it was a balance between the two na kung saan nawawala ako kasi hindi ko alam kung saan ba ako magiging masaya or saan ba ako magiging kontento. So, few years yun ang dala-dala ko, but as time goes on, I realized that there's more to it than that. So, in taking a journey in finding yourself, I've looked into some philosophies or I've looked into some mindsets of other great minds from history na kung saan, paano nga ba natin masasabi na kung ano nga ba talaga tayo as a person. Kasi sometimes in self-discovery, we often isolate others in order to find ourselves. Maybe it's okay for some, but personally, it's a bit hard na kung saan when finding oneself, you should not be isolating other people. Because in the journey that I've faced is that being with other people also helps you finding yourself. We cannot do it alone. Even though we want to do it alone, it's hard for us to do it. Wow, lalim. So, yun nga, I've been searching for different philosophers or different mindsets na kung saan how do we define ourselves. Kasi I believe that defining oneself is also an important part in finding oneself. You need to know who you are in order to find who you are, if that makes sense. So, I've gathered some philosophers. First of all, I've been looking into the work of John Locke na kung saan, I apologize pala for having notes because ganyan talaga. John Locke, sinasabi ni John Locke na kung saan sinasabi niya ang sarili daw natin is a culmination of our memories. Na kung saan daw, kung ano ka ngayon, it is a byproduct ng mga memories na pinagdaanan mo before. You are the product of either the past or either good memories or bad memories. Na kung ano ang pinaninindigan mo sa buhay ngayon, it was because of how you remember the things that happened to your life. So, looking into that, napag-reflect ko din na maybe ang version ng sarili kong hinahanap ko is someone that should be moving on from the past memories that I had experienced. Or maybe you're looking for a version of yourself that is no longer connected with your past. Nonetheless, if you define yourself or if you are clinging on to what happens in the past, whether good or bad, you are aligning with what John Locke said, na kung saan ourselves is attributed to our memories. So, it was fun when I read that. So, very, nakakamulat ika nga. Kasi, who knew that our memories can serve a deeper meaning than just looking back in our lives. So, next one is that meron tayong tinatawag na philosophy ni Immanuel Kant. So, in my knowledge of philosophy, in my knowledge of ganitong journey, Immanuel Kant is the strictest philosopher. One of the strictest philosopher na nabasa ko. But his version of the self is that we are an accumulated experience. So, if kay John Locke is saying na memories daw tayo, we are a sum of our memories. Kay Immanuel Kant is that sometimes memories are not really clear on who we are. It's all about how we experience our life. So, the less you experience life, the less you will find who you are. So, it kind of makes sense actually na maybe you have different memories, but there are moments in your life na hindi ka nag-take ng risk into doing something. You did not experience reaching out to someone. You did not experience trying new things. So, Immanuel Kant's version is actually pretty solid, especially sa pagkakataon na mga panahon natin ngayon na we are encouraged to try something new, explore new adventures, and it kind of helps us to where we need to be. So, again, two great philosophers with two amazing mindsets. And another one is that maybe psychology majors is familiar with this principle. Kasi isa ito sa I think, basic na pinag-aaralan in psychology is that we have the concept of Sigmund Freud, which is the ego, the id, and the superego. Na kung saan we should not be focusing daw on our ids personally. Ids is our instant gratification, kung ano yung instincts natin, yung ano tawag nito? Id is the concept na we're not thinking when doing our actions. We prioritize our carnal pleasures. So we should not just be focusing on our id, and it should be a balance between ego and superego. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. It's been so long since I've remembered the teaching of Freud na kung saan superego is more on our morality. It's more on how the goodness we see in our actions, and ego is something that is more on about us. Kaya nga siya ego, is more on about ourselves, on how we view ourselves, on what makes us actually. So that is for Freud, na kung saan in order to find yourself, you should not just be focusing on what makes you happy, on what makes things pleasurable. Kasi in pleasure, there's two different kinds of pleasure. We have the hedonistic pleasure, and we have the deeper one, which is yung sinasabi nga nating genuine happiness. So, according to Freud, do not just focus on something that will just make you happy instantly. Kasi halimbawa, if you focus yourself or lagi mong tinitingnan na kapag umiinom ka lagi, you are feeding your own carnal pleasures. You cannot find yourself kapag lagi kang umiinom. Or you cannot find yourself if you are always engaging in sex. You cannot find yourself when you're just engaging on eating so much food. So, excess in pleasuring our instincts or our physical needs most of the time cannot allow us to find ourselves. So, sometimes people are, maybe I was guilty of this before, na kung saan I was struggling with finding myself. I lean towards food, na I also lean towards alcohol, na akala ko kapag lagi ako nakikipag-inuman with my friends, it's an avenue for me in finding myself. So, there are so many conflicting ideas about that, and Freud kind of summarized it that we should not just be focusing on our id. We should also, it should be a balance between superego and ego naman din. Kasi kapag nasobra naman daw tayo sa superego, lahat ng action siguro sa mundo ay makikita natin pagkakamali, because we see something as kung anong version natin ng what is morally right. So, there you go. So, Freud is mostly a balance of these three things. Again, it makes perfect sense na kung saan what Freud is saying, kung anong sinasabi rin ni Immanuel Kant, ni John Locke, is very applicable in our different stages in life talaga. So, again, to continue with this, is that after ni Sigmund Freud, this is one of the philosophers, nung nabasa ko yung kanyang version of the self, is that it is a more suitable reflection na kung ano nga ba ang pananaw ng karamihan sa atin in this modern age, mapa-millennials man or Gen Z, is that the philosophy or Gilbert Ryle is that, in short, it says that I act, therefore I am. Meaning, if I am capable of acting upon my actions, if I'm capable of acting upon my actions, therefore I exist. So most of the time, this is also interpreted as our actions define who we are. What we do defines who we are as a person. And most of us agree with this, na kung saan, kung anong ginagawa mo sa ibang tao, if you do something good towards others, they will see you as a good person. If you do something bad towards others, again, they will see you as a bad person. So your action basically defines who you are. But there are some criticisms towards this philosophy. But let's not focus on the criticisms right now. We're focusing on the context of I act, therefore I am. Kasi, when we do something, it's either pinag-iisipan natin or hindi. But most of the time, most of our actions have consequences. And because of those consequences, we often find who we are because of the results of our actions. Kung maganda ang resulta ng actions mo, therefore you lean towards to repeating that action again. If your action leads to something negative or talaga nagkamali ka, you tend to grow as a person because of the consequences of your action. But bottom line is, your action will always lead you to who you are or where you need to be. If you want to be happy, ito yung ginagawa mo. If you're sad, ito yung ginagawa mo. If you're comforting a friend, ito yung ginagawa mo. And more often than not, sometimes people define others based on their initial actions. That's why first impressions always last in most of our cases. Na kapag maganda yung una mong pinakita sa isang tao, they will remember you as someone who is good. So yeah, if that makes sense actually. Kaya nagkokodigo ako so that my train of thoughts ay dire-diretso pa rin. And aside from kay Gilbert Ryle, so we will be talking about the complete opposite of his philosophy. Kung kay Ryle ay sinasabi niya na I act, therefore I am, this philosopher states that I think, therefore I am. So which is René Descartes. So sa ibang basa ng ibang mga tao is René Descartes. But I know it was just a joke pagdating sa school, but I digress. René Descartes states that I think, therefore I am. In true essence is that it means if you can think, if you can doubt, therefore you exist. Having the capacity to think or doubt the existence or things in life allows you to exist. But as the years goes by, it's being interpreted as something na kung saan how you think, what you think, defines who you are. So it's a complete opposite kay Ryle na kung saan if Ryle focuses on the action, René Descartes focuses on the thoughts that we are having. It also make perfect sense kasi I have a friend na sinabi dati na kapag ano daw ang iniisip mo, minsan yun daw ang nagmamanifest sa katawan mo. If you're thinking negative thoughts, if you're having doubts, anxieties, magpo-project yun sa physical body mo. Na if you feel anxious, you have these mannerisms daw. If you are feeling sad, makikita yan sa mukha mo. So that's why we always have, kung ano daw yung vibe na nakikita natin sa ibang tao, usually lumalabas yun because of the mindset of an individual. Yeah, you can fake confidence, you can fake many things in life, but you cannot fake what you think. So according to my friends, so shout out sa'yo. Kay René Descartes, basically your thoughts define your actions. Kasi sometimes we are experiencing different kinds of thoughts, positive man yan or negative. And at the same time, kung kay Ryle ay pinapakita kung ano ang actions natin in different situations will define who we are, sometimes our thoughts can also help us go to where we need to be. Kasi if you're thinking of doing something good, most of the time your action will lead towards something good. If you're thinking about doing something bad, sometimes your action will lead towards doing something bad. Na alam mo ba, inisip ko na, ay, tinatamad ako ngayon. Ay, hindi muna ako magre-record. Di ko muna i-record ang episode na ito. I was guilty of this kasi natagalan tong episode na ito because I've been contemplating, I've been thinking kung bakit ko nga ba i-release ang episode na ito. May silbi ba ito sa mga listeners? So, I had this internal conflict with myself. So, because of that, walang nangyari. No progress was done in making this episode or in making solo content for this podcast. So parang na-realize ko na it also aligns. Actually, kaya lahat ng dinidiscuss ko dito aligns with either my personal experience or maybe your experiences as well. So that we have this clear roadmap on how we really should find ourselves. So yun nga, that's for René Descartes. And another philosophy na na-discover ko rin is that it came from Saint Augustine, actually. Saint Augustine is one of my favorite philosophers na nagkaroon ng philosophy on ethics na kung saan the natural law, but that's another episode na lang. But basically, ang sinasabi ni Augustine is that our self is a gift from God. So the body and soul is a gift from God, and yourself is defined by how you take care of that body of God. So we have a body and we have a soul. So how you take care of your body, how you take care of your soul also defines who you are as a person. Na kung inaalagaan mo yung sarili mo, you tend to feel more positive. That's why most of us are encouraged to take physical exercises, to go out more, experience life, because it takes care of our physical body. And at the same time, taking care of the soul, doon yung pagdadasal, being with your loved ones, doing good things to others, avoiding bad things to ourselves, and avoiding bad things towards others, allows us to take care of those body and soul. Now, the more you take care of your body and soul daw, according kay Augustine, mas nakikita mo kung ano nga ba talaga ang purpose natin sa buhay. Ito yung philosophy na makakatulong ka sa iba or makikita mo yung sarili mo kapag inalagaan mo yung sarili mo. That's basically it. And it's really, again, it really aligns. Na I know nakakaumay pakinggan ng it really aligns because most of this really aligns. Depende on kung anong hinahanap mo talaga sa sarili mo. Kasi, if you do not take care of yourself, you cannot function well. If you cannot take care of how you think, if you cannot take care of your personal health, if you cannot take care of your interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships, then usually walang mangyayari. So, shout out kay Saint Augustine. So, according kay, konti na lang to. Actually, I've just gathered some of the key insights ng philosophers na ito. Another one is we have kay Maurice Merleau-Ponty. Okay, philosopher Ponty. So if you're a college student and nagiging familiar ka sa mga sa mga philosophers na ito, most of these philosophers are actually discussed in a subject called understanding the self. So yeah, it's kind of a review for this, but personally, maganda talaga siya na mga philosophies. So according kay Maurice Ponty is that what our mind perceives is that what we visualize, yun ang sinusundan natin. So it's kind of similar, if you think about it, kind of similar to René Descartes on how you think, but sometimes this one is the perception of the mind. Okay? Your thoughts become your actions. So there's this line in philosophy, Buddhism, na kung saan your thoughts become your words become your actions becomes your habit becomes your destiny, so on and so forth. So basically kay Maurice Ponty is that kung anong visualize mo, yun ang mangyayari sa'yo. So basically that's the law of attraction na nakasanayan nating lahat. And that's basically it. It's a summary ng whole philosophy ni Ponty. But please, if you have the time, do read on these amazing philosophers. We also have Friedrich Nietzsche na nagsasabi na, anong tawag nito? Na we should not be victims on how the world sees us. We should be more focusing on how we see ourselves in the world around us because our reality is our own perceptions. So, maraming ganun na versions on how we find ourselves. But, given the different philosophers na diniscuss ko, lumalabas yung inner teacher ko talaga. Given the philosophies na napag-uusapan natin, ano pa rin nga ba? Paano nga pa natin hahanapin ulit ang sarili natin? We just go back to the initial question. Bakit nga ba natin kailangan hanapin ang sarili natin? And paano? Because most of us are lost when it comes to this one. Kasi we don't know the standard, we don't know the parameters on how we can say that we found ourselves. And upon reading everything on this one, and upon reflecting then on my life as well, maybe I can share to you one of the things that I realized on how I can say that I have truly found myself. Okay. During these journeys, and where I am right now, I realized that one of the most important things in finding oneself, basically, is that you do not find yourself. It's contradicting, I know, but hear me out, okay? Na-realize ko yun kasi, alam mo, may nawala kang gamit. Kapag mas lalo mong hinahanap ang isang gamit, mas hindi mo siya nakikita, mas nahihirapan ka. And kapag hindi mo na hinahanap yung gamit na yun, you relax yourself, eventually, lalabas na lang siya. So parang the initial panic, the initial rush in finding that object, usually nawawala kapag everything just appears. So parang yun din yung na-realize ko in finding myself na ang hirap hanapin ang sarili kapag lahat ng bagay ay binubulabog mo. Binubulabog mo yung sarili mo, binubulabog mo yung iba, binubulabog mo kung ano yung mga opportunities na meron sa'yo just to find yourself. So, I figured to just focus on what I'm doing right now, actually. And during those moments, I also realized na kung saan your desire often leads to what you want. So it's kind of a bit similar kay Merleau-Ponty na what we visualize is that usually what I desire is more often doon nagli-lead ang actions ko. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad kasi we all have different desires, but sometimes those desires may not be beneficial to us. Maybe it will, maybe it's not. So we just have to face the consequences to that. So, again, it leads to Ryle's definition of philosophy. So, what I realized going forward is that lahat ng bagay that I'm willing to maintain often defines who I am. Doon ko nakikita yung sarili ko. Say, for example, my work as a teacher. Na kung saan I love maintaining that work as a teacher despite the challenges that it brings. I love maintaining the communications with my co-teachers, discussing different lessons to my students. So parang I want to do it every day and I want to do it well. And doon ko nakikita yung sarili ko. As well as this podcast actually, na nag-e-enjoy ako gawin ang podcast na ito na despite the mental blocks, despite the breakdowns, I'm still willing to create episodes. I'm still willing to record. I really want to maintain doing this. Even in exercising, even in cooking. So parang nakikita ko yung sarili ko na I love doing this. I love maintaining this. And in a way, I kind of found my definition of contentment. Na kung saan, sometimes if people are asked kung anong contentment sa buhay, they will just say na kung ano yung meron ka, masaya ka na. And initially, I believed that as well. But as I grow, and I'm sure you will, marirealize mo na sometimes what you have right now ay magtatagal yan if you're willing to maintain it. That's why maintenance nga siya. Diba? And that's how I kind of see myself. And maybe it will help you as well. Na reflect on the actions, reflect on the deeds, and reflect on those moments na kung saan masasabi mo sa sarili mo na kaya ko tong gawin ng matagal, And kaya ko tong gawin ng maayos, kaya ko tong gawin ng marangal, at kaya ko tong gawin ng masaya. Those are the things that you can do to find yourself. The philosophy of maintenance. I know it's not original. There are concepts when it comes to maintenance, but yeah, if you're really lost in finding who you are, look into the things that you are maintaining right now. Look into the relationships that you're maintaining. Look into the task. Look into the hobbies. Look into the works that you're investing in. Are you maintaining your body? Are you taking care of your mind? Are you taking care of your thoughts? Are you taking care of the consequences of your actions towards others? Pinag-iisipan mo ba kung ano ang iyong mga next step moving forward? If it aligns doon sa gusto mo. If it aligns doon sa mini-maintain mo sa sarili mo at sa mga taong mahalaga sa'yo. So those are the questions you should be asking. We should be asking ourselves. And eventually, one day you will just realize na I have found myself. I have found a version of myself that is happy. And shockingly enough, that version na hinahanap natin ng sarili natin, it was never lost. It was never gone. That version of ourselves na gustong-gusto nating hanapin was beside us. Katabi lang natin the entire time. All we had to do is just maintain who we are and eventually lalabas na lang siya. So, with that said, I hope this episode finds you well. It's been a while since we talked, you and I. So thank you so much for listening. And this is your host, PJ, and I will see you all on the next one. Be safe and take care. Bye-bye.